Well, hi everybody, or whenever anybody is tuning in, can I just first of all apologise for this being the same time as Foul Play Coffee with Foul Play. If you are tuning in, then please go and listen to Foul Play first. Listen to Dr. Siltman, and then come back and listen to me and Dr. Sandpaper. Hi, Mark. How's it going?
Very well, thank you, Mr. Capaldi. It's Sunday evening in Australia,
Yep.
and it's where winter starts tomorrow. So
Yeah,
it's a bit nippy. Hence, I've got this coat on at the moment. So
I can see that. Yeah.
but I'm well, getting used to how things are. But things in Australia, as far as COVID and all that goes with that, are going fairly well, all things considered. So yeah, we're fortunate.
Yep.
But I'm contained travel-wise, which is like, gauging up a line, right? I'm a traveler, so
Yes.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to move from Australia since I came back from Wisconsin in early March. So I'm itching to get back and seeing our friends and doing that support thing over there as well.
Yeah. Okay. We've got 3 people joined us. Can I just mention what I've just said just at the start there? I apologise. Foul Play do their Coffee with Foul Play at the same time. This was the only time I could get hold of Mark, so we've gone just now. But if you would like to, if you want to, please do. Don't feel bad about going and listening to Foul Play with Dr. Siltman, coming back later on, watching a replay of this, me with the Dr. Sandpaper. So there you go. A little disclaimer before we begin, just to say, look, it's difficult trying to arrange times, and I think that's the reason why Coffee with Foul Play do it at 1:30 on a 1:30 for UK time. Because then that's, what's it, about 10:30 there for you?
Yes, it's quarter to 11.
Yeah, quarter to 11, yeah. And it's like it's something ridiculously early, like 7:30 in the morning for people in Central Time. But anyway, they well, whether you go and listen to Foul Play now and then come back to us, or vice versa, just apologies that it's at the same time and it's live, and it's just the fact that it's, as I say, it is difficult trying to pin people down. And I really wanted to get hold of Mark and ask him about the States brief, but I don't know. Did you get a chance to listen to Sharon Sunshine yesterday?
Unfortunately, I did not. So my apologies for that. There's lots going on the broadcasting channels, but it's one thing I haven't seen yet. So
there she had as her guest her cousin through her husband's side, who she's in India at the moment, but she travels all over the place. She's been literally all over the world, a bit like yourself, Mm-hmm. And you know what she said? She was saying that she was referring to what we've often referred to as well, which is that situation of people go abroad, and the first thing they're looking for is all the things that they would usually expect to see in their home country, and see them in foreign places. And I'm thinking, that reminds me of somebody. Who does it remind me of? Who is it? Who is it that goes everywhere, and everywhere he goes? The most important thing is, does it sell Dr. Pepper?
Exactly.
I mean, is he the world's worst tourist, or are there even worse than him?
He's a bit of a novice. Let's put it that way.
You'd be hard pressed to get anybody worse than him.
I find actually, I mean this with all love and affection. I find that this is a huge generalization that, as a group as a nation, that Americans aren't as widely traveled as most other countries, and if they go from one side of the country to the other, that's like a huge trip for them.
It is, yes.
And but he has put his big foot outside California and reached all the way over to Australia, so there's a good start for him. So
Well, yeah, that's right. And he made it all the way up to Manitowoc twice. So
he did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The yes, the yeah. I always remember when we were crossing Australia last year, and we got to go to have breakfast a few times out. And I just said to you, look, Mark, I said, I don't know what this stuff is. The dude is wanting an explanation of everything that's on there, and I'm like, Mark, just tell us what's good and I'll just go with that, because that's the easiest way, isn't it? But him, it's like, no. And every restaurant we went to, do you have Dr. Pepper? And they were like, are you being serious?
Or will you accept American dollars? Right. So, yeah. But that's the fun of travel. Just the differences. That's if you don't want to transplant your own country into a foreign location. It's experiencing those differences that make travel what it is. So
yeah.
Whether that's language or location or culture or food or God knows what. I just can't wait for my chance to visit Crunch Island one day and see what that's like. So,
yeah. So do you know? So once again, I'll ask you the same question I asked the dude yesterday. Did you see my chat with the dude? I asked him the question, what is it? What is that big hole behind me?
Yes, I did actually watch most of your chat with him, but I noticed you regularly shifted from Serbia and Siberia as if they were one and the same place.
I know. It's definitely Siberia, but yeah, I know.
I'm thinking Serbia would be all right down there, but
yeah, I've done. But the thing is, I never knew that there were diamond mines in Serbia. But no, it's definitely Siberia. Sorry, Siberia. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, which is bigger, the hole in Siberia or the hole that the states has found themselves in now?
Yeah, look, the hole of the state of Wisconsin has found itself in is not going to get filled in. That's the problem. No. And they can constantly hope it is, and hopefully the problem goes away, but they can deflect and they can bump and they can argue this, that, and the other, but the problem's going to stay. So the best way they can get a remedy is to address the issues, and as painful as that might be for them, there's no rewards by keeping on procrastinating about the truth here. So
yeah, absolutely. So sorry, I'm going to find a little bit that I had. Page 20 of the brief.
Oh,
I'll just
okay.
read what it says. It's okay. So I'll just read what it says. It's item 2. Avery's allegations about post-conviction counsels were conclusory and meritless. But it starts off with the state does not dispute that the circuit court confused the procedure for raising ineffective assistance of post-conviction counsel with the procedure for raising ineffective assistance of appellate counsel. Is that the sort of thing that a judge would usually get confused? I mean, I find that very, very odd. I mean, Judge Sukowicz, compared with the 1,300-page motion, she just suddenly shut it down, didn't she? But yet this one, that particular one, she actually took, was it 14 weeks?
Yes.
To write 11 pages.
Yes, that's right. Look, that what you've just read and the commentary that's arising from that is illustrative of the kind of desperate technical measures they're now having to deal with to try to have some semblance of an argument. Very little of what they say in any of this is a response on the merits. So that's, when the type of response is given is technically based, that they are struggling to find something, because this is about, well, at least should be about the search for the truth. There's more than adequate, sufficiently newly discovered evidence and violations to justify an evidentiary hearing. And an evidentiary hearing is meant to be the legal forum under which you examine the veracity of that newly discovered evidence. And so if you believe in the process of review and justice, you say, okay, we mightn't like this going on, but let's have the evidentiary hearing and let's thresh it out and see whether there's merit in what the Avery team is saying.
Yeah,
they don't want to do that.
No. Did you get the sense that it was almost like it was Ken Kratz that had written that state's response?
Oh, well, I don't think Ken actually has got the capability, with due respect to Mr. Kratz, I don't think he's got the capability of writing a response like that. But it's very hollow. You know, most of us who are trying to assist in this or advocating for this want to see the emergence of the truth and a process by which truth is demonstrated. Or if Stephen's case in appeal is so weak, let it be judged on the merits, not on some technical issue. And I mean, one of the really good examples I often refer to here is what is the alleged Brady violation over the Veely CD. Yeah. And they would say, the other side would say that all the information that was on the Veely CD was somewhere amongst the DVDs as well. So the defense had a chance to see them. Well, to me, that's spurious argument, because evidence is both form and substance. So the form of the CD, which is a electronic document, if you like, or document storage facility that was easily accessible. It didn't require any special software to have access to it. It was capable of analyzing very quickly and very easily. Is a form of evidence that was denied of Stephen, right? So it doesn't make it, to me, it doesn't matter. It was a piece of evidence. It was supposed to be with the other records. And the very fact that it wasn't like sitting around in a storage locker of like a security storage locker. It was sitting in the custody of Tom Fassbender for 12 years or whatever the time frame was. This is just rubbish to argue that isn't a Brady violation. It's a Brady violation, 1,000 times over. So
absolutely.
And when they want to try to argue this issue that but all that information was on the DVDs, to me that's irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant.
But it doesn't address at all. They don't address at all the fact that Ken Kratz sent it as a stipulation that it's Brendan Dassey's computer, and there is nothing of evidentiary value. Now, if he hadn't have said anything, there's maybe a slight hint of, well, it was their fault for not seeing it. But the fact that he is deliberately misled, that for me is huge. It's like when the states say, well, we never actually said that the item FL went through Teresa's skull, but there's absolutely no sort of explanation as to, well, how did wood get on it?
Yes. Well, on the issue of the CD for a moment. I think it's been brought out. Forgive me, I'm not going to be able to quote the exact cases, but it brought out in the Supreme Court in Wisconsin that the handing over of evidence shouldn't be an exercise of searching for the defense. It Absolutely. Should be. So the fact that let's just say it was argued, well, it was there, you should have looked harder, blah blah blah. That's not an argument. The defense is entitled to every piece of evidence, in form or substance, even if it was an empty bean can. It's still a piece of evidence, right? Exactly. The existence of the structure that is the CD, and then so to argue that therefore that wasn't a Brady violation is to me just ridiculous. And a court should say, the defense were entitled, what would have been the circumstances if the defense had given that CD at the time? They would have seen immediately the issues with the information on the computer that belonged to the family, if you like, the Dassey or the Janda family overall. And that would have been a whole ball game issue straight there. So when I see them trying to argue those issues, I just think this is just not in the pursuit of the truth. And then you then run on to the second point you made, and that is now arguing that we didn't say that. Quickly, just before I finish that, Ken Kratz says nothing much of evidentiary value, right? So he uses this crazy little term, which even comes up in the state's response, as if nothing of evidentiary value or nothing much of evidentiary value is a vastly different thing. I mean, really? You've got the state, the prosecutor in the case telling the defense, who was entitled to evidence, that this was Brendan Dassey's computer, which we know it wasn't, and it doesn't have much of evidentiary value, right? And by the way, we're not giving you a whole bunch of stuff, not that they knew that at the time. And then to go on to the issue about the bullet not passing through her skull, right?
Yeah.
That's why. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here. Wasn't there a whole array of evidence given by Dr. Eisenberger talking about the beveling of the marks on the skull that identified that a bullet had passed there, right? Wasn't that part of her evidence?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for me, the state, as Kathleen Zellner points out, the state did not present any evidence that bullet went through any other part of her body at trial. The only thing the state presented was that she had bullet holes to the skull fragments, and we have this bullet. So whether they specifically said it or not, they absolutely 100% inferred that, didn't they?
That's right. That was Dr. Eisenberg was a witness for the state, scientific expert, said in asking in the examination of the skull bones, said that's indicative of projectile. I'm paraphrasing; they're not her words, but it's basically she said under examination from the state that a bullet had passed through her skull, and that they were the telltale signs of that. So how they then go and say, we never said it passed through a skull. Well, I'm sorry, you did. And you, by the way, and all your witnesses. It's not just what Kratz might have said or what whoever, it's the totality of the evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what's under examination here. And then they go on to say in many of the points, things like, well, even if that was true, we don't think that would have influenced the jury's decision in the end. Really? I mean, we know, as I've pointed out on numerous occasions, at the risk of boring people, is that we know that with absolute certainty on the first assessment of the jury when it retired to consider its verdict, that 7 jurors decided that Stephen was not guilty, 2 were uncertain, and 3 were guilty. Yeah. Now, if that's after all the evidence was presented, right? No new evidence, all the evidence was presented. That's an uncertain jury. In fact, it's probably more certain for not guilty. So how is the state can turn around and say any piece of additional evidence would not have had an influence on the jury's deliberation? It's just ridiculous. Now, so, and you have to respect the fact that it doesn't matter. It's if there is a piece of new evidence or a piece of evidence that was not properly presented, that's the whole purpose of review, to give the chance, one, for that piece of evidence to be tested for its validity, and secondly, to have it introduced as part of a new trial. So we want the truth, don't we? Isn't that what we're after?
Well, Sorry. First of all, can we just go back to Cherie, who points out that yes, it was the Wierski case last year in Wisconsin that caused the Supreme Court to decide that the Brady violation rule has now changed, and they're not allowed. The states aren't allowed to operate, a system of hide and seek anymore. And it's not up to the defense to go seeking the stuff. It's up to the prosecution to go handing the stuff over. Because we see that far too often, don't we? That there was a load of stuff that wasn't handed over, and it's like, well, it's so bizarre that it's the prosecution that get to decide what they do and don't hand over. Yes,
well, that's certainly true. That's certainly true in this case.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then sit back and say, well, it wouldn't have made much difference. Well, you know,
how can you make that conclusion if you haven't handed it over and the jury hasn't actually had a chance to deliberate it in the totality of the evidence? How can they possibly be in a position to say it wouldn't have made much difference? They're not the jury. They're trying to be judge and jury all in one role, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it reminds me a little bit about the in football, proper football, as in, you know, the world game, the beautiful game, not American football, but in proper football. I don't know if you remember, but they changed the offside rule recently, whereby a goal could be scored even though a player was offside if he was not interfering with play. But then, you know, the argument was always, you know, Bill Shankly used to say, you know, well, if a player is on the football pitch, he is interfering with play because that's what they're there for, you know.
Yeah.
But they did recently change it, whereby, you know, even if the footballer was offside, if they were not sort of affecting the line of sight of the goalkeeper, and you know, making a sort of contribution at that moment in play, then the goal stood. So I like the fact that, yes, they're making it clear that, you know, you do have to hand over the evidence, whether you think it's of any evidentiary value or not is irrelevant. Hand it over. And that was I was trying to find right at the beginning of the I was trying to find a version of the state's response, but to be honest, I don't really want to bother too much time looking at a load of nonsense. But it says at the beginning that, you know, that the as far as I read it, the law is that you can't come back with sort of what you class as newly discovered evidence, and you can't do it bit by bit because you're clogging up the court system unless you're coming back with something of evidentiary value. And really for the state to say, you know, there's nothing there. There's a whole mounting of stuff that is it 10 different items that Zellner wants addressed.
Yes.
And for them to come back and say, you know, well, there's nothing in any of them. So just go away and just Steve, just go and die in quiet, will you?
But you know, the determination of what is of evidentiary value is for an evidentiary hearing.
Exactly.
Right. At this stage of the process, you're just trying to present sufficient evidence that is not frivolous or not properly thought through, or etc. And the burden of determining its suitability is why you have an evidentiary hearing to examine it. And my understanding of the case law says that there is a presumption that the evidence is valid unless it's, you know, crazily constructed, and it belongs to the court to actually make sure it gets its chance to be heard in a properly structured evidentiary hearing. Now, if the court then turns around and say that's a load of garbage and we don't accept that, we've heard from X and we've heard from Y and blah blah blah, well, fine, that's the role, but it's not to stop the evidence getting its hearing date. And so a lot of the stuff that Kathleen Zellner has discovered has been discovered over time. As far as I can recall, it all goes to the same 97406 application. It's not piecemeal. It feels a little piecemeal at times because the state has been notoriously slow in responding to stuff. And they've also withheld information that they knew. You know, the CD is a good example of that. The non-disclosure of the disposal of the bones is a matter of that as well. So, you know, if everyone was putting their cards on the table, it wouldn't have that sense of bit by bit. But in truth, in any event, it's all part of the one motion and supplementing the initial motion. So,
yeah. Okay. I mean, the thing is, obviously, Kathleen Zellner is now going to respond to that.
yes.
And it just struck me that the fact that they, as I say, they didn't want to talk too much about everything that Kathleen Zellner has developed. The fact that they want to shut it down just on the fact that, you know, as they're saying, it's all to do with piecemeal and procedural bar, and you know, it's too late. You had your chance.
I mean,
I just wonder if the state were running a bit of a risk here, because they've already had something sent back to Judge Angie because the Paul Riley judge was not happy with what they'd written as regards, you know.
One thing we have seen in a lot of these styles of cases across the US is you do tend to, as it seems to me at least, once you elevate yourself up the food chain of judges, you do get a more professional and capable and independent perspective on things. And
that would be my word, yeah, independent, somebody that doesn't have a vested interest. Yeah. And
I mean, it's up to the judges to make their own decisions, but I'm just hoping that that sort of pattern of thoughtful deliberation based on the pursuit of truth and justice is what I hope we're going to see with the appeals court. Because, you know, as sort of silly as it sounds, even though it's not silly, if Stephen is so damn guilty, well, what's your problem? What are you worried about, right? The evidence will be frivolous, and it won't support anything. You know, this is the big problem I have. We have a system of review and appeal and post-conviction for a reason. It's not there to avoid it. It's there for a reason, and it's just as much as the justice system as the trial itself or the preliminary hearings that happen before a trial. Stop blocking this part of the process, because it's there for a reason.
So I don't think we've got very long to wait, because it's the 1st of June tomorrow. So within, I would say, the next 10 days, I mean, okay, Kathleen Zellner might leave it till the 11th to send in a response. Somebody like Kathleen, I'm sure, would have known exactly what the state's reply was going to be and how they were going to word it. I'm pretty sure that she knew that it would be a case of basically the state trying to say, well, Angie Sukovich didn't see anything wrong with it, so you shouldn't either. But I don't think that's going to watch, because, as I say, they've already spoken to the state. You know, the appeals judge, Paul Riley, has spoken to this and to the state in a pretty condescending way before in remanding it back to Judge Angie. You know, I think they're on a very sticky wicket. You know.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm just looking to restore some faith in the independence of the judiciary, and there's nothing in Stephen's application for post-conviction relief which is fundamentally to seek a hearing. It's not an application to send me home today, even though we would all love that. It's an application to hear under oath and examine witnesses about newly discovered evidence, significant newly discovered evidence about alleged Brady violations, 6 of them, I think, or 5 of them.
Yeah, six Brady.
And that's what justice is supposed to be about. Stopping it, trying to stop it. And I hope the appeals court judges, when it finally gets to them for deliberation, will just look at this as a matter of due process, as far as, you know, allowing the defendant his appropriate day at an evidentiary hearing. And then let's see what happens in the evidentiary hearing, but that's all we're trying to get here. I mean, when you think about it, Kathleen Zellner's been on this now for 4 years, right? She's been his post-conviction lawyer for 4 years and still hasn't been given a chance to be heard in court in any substantive way, right?
Yeah.
That just shows you the problem here. And of course, we have these other issues that surround this, about the selective handing over of evidence. Why can't the RAV4 be given to Zellner to examine, you know, that she wants? Now, obviously, there's a huge argument that, you know, people say, oh, does it even exist anymore, right? But why not? Why can't it be handed over, right? Yeah. But they're fearful. The problem is the state is fearful that Kathleen Zellner and her independent experts will find stuff that will go against their prosecution of Stephen Avery and in turn Brendan Dassey.
Absolutely.
So,
I can't remember what the item number, but the bloody handprint on the back door
yes.
was not identified as being either Teresa's or Steve's or Brendan's. That needs to be. They need to find out whose that blood is, and the fact that they never made any effort to find out who it matched.
Yeah, and
So
who? And,
that's the reason they don't want to hand over the RAV4.
yeah, I mean,
Because it would make it crystal clear.
Yeah, and if you're a genuine person who are generally in the justice system for justice, say, okay, let's have another look at this. Let's see what we can find that we didn't find. Let's just be kind of what's the word? Kind of kind about it. We didn't find it in 2005, 6, and 7. Let's have a look at this, see what we can find. Don't we want to find who the real person is here? There's clearly more than sufficient doubtful matters here, and not just with matters that were brought forward at the trial, but also with matters that have come under this newly discovered evidence category. And let's hope that I mean, sure, I don't know. Who knows what Kathleen Zeldner's going to say, but I'm sure she's going to firstly argue the merits of the silliness, if you like, of some of these pushback clauses that the state have argued. But to me, the major flaw is that what she's done so far is just part of the process, and they just want to resist against her. They don't want to have a part of bringing the evidence forward for examination. And it's my understanding, at least, there is a presumption of entitlement to have it examined unless it's frivolously constructed, and the forum for that is the evidentiary hearing. So that's all we're asking for.
One of obviously one of our favourite DAs is Ken Kratz. Another one that the dude particularly likes is Kim Worthy,
Yes,
who was in the Devante Sanford case.
Yes.
Another one is Paul Howard in the Scott Davis case, and of course, there's so many of them out there.
What about that Kevin Crane in with Ryan Ferguson's case?
Ryan Ferguson, yeah. Another example. Their philosophy is it's like the market trader sold as seen. Once you've been found guilty, that's it.
Yes, exactly.
Once you've been found guilty, they think there should be no coming back to review the case, because you had your chance in court, you lost, result stands.
Yeah.
They see it as a football game. I've actually just ordered, and it's on its way. I did mention it either the last video or the video before, that I've ordered up a new book. Well, I've ordered up 2 books. One of them is the Murder in the Bayou, the story about the case in Jefferson County, the Jeff County case, the Jeff 8. Which is absolutely bizarre. Very, very similar. It looks very much as if sheriff's departments have been the sheriff department involved in eliminating residents of the town of is it Jefferson? Is that the name of the town? Do you know what? It's amazing how my memory can. The DA in the staircase is Jim Harding. He became a judge. Yeah, but anyway, no. The book that I'm on about is called Blind Injustice, and it's by Mark Hoddinot, who was a DA, who was a prosecutor. So I'm really looking forward to reading that, because it looks like there are some DAs out there that do realise that it's not sold as seen. Once you're found guilty, that there is the town was Jennings. That was it, Jennings, in Jefferson.
I mean, it's no coincidence that the US has got the highest rate of incarceration in the whole world. It's no coincidence that something like 98% of all criminal charges are resolved by a plea deal, right? And those plea deals are predicated often on circumstances where people are told to be fearful of going to trial, and you might get 20 years, but if you plead for 5, so what does that mean for the prosecutor? Another conviction to notch on the belt, another potentially innocent person going to jail in a privately run prison system, right? And it just becomes like this factory of incarcerated people, where you've got 40% of the male population of American prisons is African American, but those men, and those African American men only represent 6% of the total population. So they're overrepresented like 8 times or 7 or 8 times in prison. And what are the characteristics of not all, of course, I try not to generalize here, but what's typically the characteristics? It's got to do with disadvantage, financial disadvantage, inability to to mount a proper defense and so on. And these people are just like ducks at the sideshow when they go along, and they get popped off by overzealous prosecutors and law enforcement officers simply seeking a conviction over truth. This is not justice. This is just, it really embarrasses me. I mean, I don't know what happens in your part of the world, Paul, but these conversations, I mean, with due respect to the United States, who I care for a lot, the conversations that now go on in my worldly world are not at all complimentary about what's happening in the United States, in justice and many other areas of everyday life. And it's sad, really. It really is sad. And we're seeing the end of that process, or the tip of that process, in the sorts of things that we're following with these wrongful convictions. We've had something like 3,000 since the advent of DNA, and 3,000 criminal convictions overturned through DNA. Over 200 of those men, perhaps women, have come off death row as a result of DNA testing. It's unbelievable. And I think you probably saw, I sort of pushed it around friends all last week about that video that was floating around of Archie Williams, who was he was a contestant on America's Got Talent, and he's singing that song, that Elton John song, I guess. 37 years incarcerated, right? Wrongfully.
I know. Yeah.
That's just, seriously, it's just such a blight on a nation, that their justice system was so poor that could be allowed to occur that way.
Yeah.
And it's not just 1 or 2 unlucky folk. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So
yeah. I don't know if you ever did you ever get a chance to watch the Khalif Browder story called Time? It's a Netflix document, well worth.
Right
the,
now,
the lad that was sent to Rikers Island for 3 years, never ever brought to trial.
Yes, I did. Oh my God!
Exactly what I'm about. Trying to get him to take a plea deal, and he's like, "Well, why do I need to take a plea deal? I never did anything. Take me to trial. Produce the evidence. Prove me guilty." And in the end, they brought this judge in who was notorious. She got through 70 cases in one day by basically telling everybody, "No, stop wasting time. Take the plea deal. You've already done time served. You'll be out." And he was like, "No."
And the tragedy of that is that when he finally did get out, he took his own life, right? That's just, that's symptomatic of the heart of the problem, and that was a terrible, tragic story. The thing is that the more you get involved in this, the more of those stories you hear and see and listen to, and you think, you can sometimes get slightly desensitized to the pain of it, because there's so many of them. And it just does my head in when I think a society can do that to its citizens. Now, you and I both want bad perpetrators brought to justice. No one wants to see them get away with things, but you don't do that at the expense of the innocent. That's certainly the case. So
yeah. Listen, Mark, it's been great having you on, and time has flown past. We have been at 40 minutes already. And that's not even counting the time you were chatting away to her ladyship earlier.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The Honourable Princess Eunice. Yes.
Well, she is officially the Lady Eunice of Glencoe. She has a Highland title.
Oh really? Yeah, that's good.
What it was for her birthday last year. I bought her this Highland title.
You bought the title.
Yeah. By what you do is you go at Highland titles, and you know, for not a great deal amount of money it was. I can't remember exactly, and I wouldn't want to say in case she was to watch this at some point, you know. But yeah, you go on to Highland titles and you buy a square foot of land up near Loch Ness and in Glencoe, and that's her title. So yeah, you can actually buy a title, Lord or Laird or Lady.
Is it an actual, you know, surveyed plot of 1 square foot?
Yes. Oh yes. They give you the exact coordinates. Yes. I don't know whether there's a tree there or yes, you can go and visit. It's all to do with preserving the forest there, you know.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. Yeah.
Upgraded sometimes.
Oh, did you hear that? Eunice is saying that she can put it on her passport, the fact that she's Lady of Glencoe, and she can get an upgrade the next time she goes on an aeroplane flight, whenever that'll be. Whenever that'll be.
She's highly deserving of such recognition, I should hasten to add.
Oh yeah. 28 years of putting up with me, absolutely. So yes, what like I said at the start, I do apologise to Foul Play for the timing of it, and as I did say at the start as well, you know, by all means, go and watch Foul Play. Come back here. So yes, seeing as we've just finished, if you all want to pop over and catch Foul Play and Dr. Siltman, I've had the pleasure of Dr. Sandpaper Man.
Thank you, sir.
It's an ongoing joke. It's an ongoing joke with Dr. Siltman. He says, "Yeah, I'll talk to you as long as there's no mention of sandpaper." So hopefully it won't be long before we get back to the cricket and the rugby and the football and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Hey, thanks very much for speaking with me. I'm looking forward to hearing Kathleen Zellner's response in the next 10 days or so. And more importantly, that, you know, things are moving along and not just standing still. And I hear through Sandra Greenman that Stephen's very positive and upbeat about what's going on. Yeah. And they do have a bit of an issue in War Pond Prison with the COVID-19 virus. But they're isolating those prisoners into I believe, into a separate section of the prison. So, but overall, they haven't had any visitors down there since March 10 or something like that. So, but his demeanour is upbeat and positive, and that's what we like to hear. And that's good to know. Yeah.
Excellent. Also, just while I'm thinking about it, 20th of June was to be the rally in Manitowoc. I hear that there are plans to do something similar, maybe to the sort of marathon thing that we did, but on the day of the rally to have a virtual rally. So yeah, watch out for that. I think it was Jane. Was it Sharon? Was it Jane? Was it Sharon's idea or Jane's idea? I can't remember who it was. But anyway, watch out for that because that should be good. I'll say head over to the Foul Play group. Have a listen to Dr. Siltman and his guests. And I do apologise for the clash of timings. As I say, it was only after I realised, and I thought just literally 10 minutes before we went on air, hold on a sec, 1:35. That's usually what time they go. So I do apologise, but anyway, head over now and catch the Foul Play, Coffee with Foul Play, and we'll be speaking to Mark in the not too distant future. Thank you very much for your time, sir, and wisdom.
Thank you, and congratulations. Yeah, for sure, and thanks for everyone who tuned in to listen. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers,
bye for now.
Bye for now.
And bye for now.
Bye from him. Goodbye from me.